Okay, hello, TGIF. It's Friday. Am I right? Welcome back. Kohler Sports Show presented by the Fat Boy Sports Company. Again, like, subscribe, follow. It takes literally a second if you do it. If you don't do it, you're a lazy piece of shit. You're not supporting me or my dreams. And why should I care about you? So if you want to have a say in the show, follow and like and subscribe. All right. Today, it's Friday. Tomorrow, Saturday, college football starting week 10. I'm going to do my picks and preview the big games. The last episode I had was the expansion episode, playoff expansion, and just talking about the playoff in general. It's going to be an interesting one. A lot of big games this weekend. Actually, big games that will basically decide how everything falls into place besides the last week of the season and conference championships. So, yeah, week 10. Let's go over what happened in the first original college football playoff rankings. We have Tennessee first, which I think is pretty fair. Right? Tennessee's first. Ohio State's second. Okay with that. Georgia's third. Defending champion. Georgia's third. I'm okay with that. Clemson fourth. This is the one everybody has a big issue with. Clemson, who you could say they've played a lot of ranked teams that are ranked currently, but they're not like contenders. I think Ohio State and Michigan, who both have wins over Penn State, that win's better than any win Clemson has, especially since they needed a backup quarterback to beat Syracuse, and Wake Forest took him into overtime. So, and Wake Forest just got thumped by Louisville last week. We can talk about that in a second. Michigan 5, Michigan fan. Michigan still controls their destiny. They can still make the playoff. Just got to win out. Got to beat Ohio State. That's how it's going to be every year. Every year you have to beat Ohio State if you're Michigan, pending in a downfall of Ohio State. But Michigan's going to have to beat Ohio State every year pretty much if they want to get into the 4-team playoff. 12-team playoff, they'll still have a chance. Likely still be a perennial playoff team. And then you have Alabama at 6 and TCU at 7. Now, TCU is undefeated, and Alabama does have one loss and a last-second field goal at Tennessee in one of the best games of the year. And TCU has some good wins, but they are a Big 12 team, so it's kind of – they haven't played at Tennessee. So I can kind of see where they did that. I would flip – if I was the committee, I would have had – probably Michigan 4, TCU 5, Alabama 6, and Clemson 7, because Clemson has not been impressive. But it is what it is. Just keep winning, and I guess you're good. Clemson's got a tough one this weekend, but let's review last week's picks. I didn't have an episode on this, but I did have a blog out. I went 6-6. My lock of the week was Georgia minus 22.5 against Florida, and that one missed by a half point, 22 points. I literally don't know how Vegas does it, but they do it. I think it's all the magicians that work there. They somehow know. So lock of the week missed last week by a half point, and then Wake Forest with one of the worst third quarters in college football history, giving up 35 points in the third quarter. That one didn't hit. Who saw Oklahoma State getting blown out by 48 points to Kansas State in a game that after they just beat Texas and then go to Kansas State, lay an egg, they get blown out. That was a miss. Arizona, USC, I guess, just doesn't play defense in that under. It was under 76.5 in that over hit. So I don't know how, and there were some other ones in there. Those were the big ones that, I can think of off the top of my head. Anyways, let's get into this week. This week's what matters. We're moving on. I will keep my track of my record on my blog at thekohlershow.com. Not at thekohlershow.com, but the name of the website is thekohlershow.com. So first game we're going to talk about is Texas Tech going to TCU. There's going to be the big noon kickoff. Fox's show is going to be there. TCU undefeated, looking good. Sonny Dykes has them rolling. Max Dugan threading the needle. I think he has 22 touchdowns and only 2 picks this year. The line is -8.5 TCU, and I'm going to stay away from that. I do think TCU probably wins this game, but I don't trust them. That was a tough game last weekend in West Virginia. Some screwy stuff happened there at the end of the game. I think Texas Tech is probably better than them. They have a first or second round pass rusher there at Texas Tech. Wilson, I believe, is his last name. Now, what I do like is the over-under at 69. Big 12 games. I love Big 12 game overs. Love them. They just don't play defense. It's just huge plays back and forth the whole game. It's almost going to be in the 30s at least every single game. This one, I think both are going to be there. Texas Tech averages 476 yards a game, and I think it was 38 points. TCU averages 519 yards per game, and I think they're in the 40s and points per game. Believe it's 42 or so. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be in Texas. It's going to be good enough weather. Pretty warm out there right now. That game is going to say a lot about TCU because they need to keep winning to even have a chance at this. Because again, like I was talking about previously, we could be looking at a 3 SEC team scenario here if Georgia beats Tennessee and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game. You could realistically look at the committee putting in Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama all here because they all beat each other, and like they are all really good, and the SEC is all really good. But again, 14 playoff with 3 SEC teams. I don't know if we're really finding. Listen to the other episode. The next game we got coming up here, Clemson and Notre Dame. Clemson at Notre Dame. It's a night game. Notre Dame has gotten it together with Drew Pine. He is more of a game manager right now, not threading the needle. He only had 9 completions in a game. They scored 40 points against Syracuse, who 3 weeks ago, looked like they had one of the best defenses in the country. So classic fall apart by Syracuse. Notre Dame, after that Marshall game, I believe they lost to Stanford or something like that. Since then, they've been looking pretty solid, and they've had a pretty tough schedule. They even looked good against Ohio State, not enough offensive firepower. But they do run the ball, and they run the ball a lot, and they do have probably the best tight end in the league in Matt Mayer. So the big concern here is Clemson does do a good job of shutting down the run. They're one of the best run defenses, and all Notre Dame can do is run. From what I understand, it might rain tomorrow there in Indiana, which that's benefit Notre Dame. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because Clemson did not look very good against Syracuse. They had to go to the backup quarterback, DJ Ungalale. He was turning the ball over left and right, was not finding the open guys. They had to go to Cade Klubnik, the freshman, who led them back, mostly through running the ball and not turning the ball over. It's going to be an interesting situation to see what happens there. But Notre Dame has better players on defense than Syracuse does. So Notre Dame, now Syracuse did get a few lucky. They had that 97 fumble return for a touchdown. DJ Ungalale was just throwing miles over the guys' heads where the safety was just standing and easy picks. But Notre Dame has much more talent on their defense than Syracuse does. Can they run the ball? They do get the benefit of having it in South Bend, Indiana. Crazier things have happened. The line there is +4, which I'm going to take. I don't love Notre Dame +4, but I'm going to take Notre Dame +4. I think that's a really easy one there. I also like, I believe it was 44 is the over-under. Now, if this game goes the way I think it's going to go, I think we're looking at a 17-13, 13-10, 16-13 type game here for this one. And it's at 44. So I'm going to take under 44, which is crazy. I really rarely take unders, especially in college football. But I just see this one being kind of a run the ball, play defense. There will be some turnovers, some special teams gaffes. I think this one's a field goal game. It's November now, November in the Midwest. I like Notre Dame +4, under 44 points. It's all going to really come down to can Notre Dame run the ball. And another little statistic here is these are two of the top defenses in points allowed. Clemson giving up about 20 points per game and Notre Dame at 22. So 20 plus 22 is 44. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I like Notre Dame +4, but I think Clemson probably wins by a field goal. I would love to see Clemson lose, though. They deserve to lose, especially after what they did last week. They did not deserve to beat Syracuse. Moving on. Alabama and LSU. Alabama will be at LSU. This is interesting here because Alabama kind of just needs to just churn out some big time victories here leading into the SEC championship game. If they're going to make believers with so many good teams ranked ahead of them. They are favored by 13.5 at LSU in a night game there in Baton Rouge. And LSU has looked better than they did at the beginning of the season, and Jaden Daniels he's playing better, but literally every LSU weakness plays right into Alabama's strengths. Alabama's going to run the ball. They're going to play defense. I feel like they're going to get up, play defense, and then just get after the quarterback. I could see them having 4, 5, 6 sacks in this one. Saban against Kelly, when Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame, I mean, Nick Saban, every time they played, he had his number, and that was with Kelly having his recruits, his players, a solid foundation at the program he's at. This is Kelly's first year at LSU. There have been struggles, and Tennessee's smoked LSU. I think Alabama wins 13.5 pretty easily, and I think they keep this one under 56.5. Again, I'm taking it under. If anybody that knows me, which is like the 5 people that listen to this podcast, knows I never take unders, but I don't know. I just feel like weather. This is another one where it's supposed to rain, and Alabama's just going to run the ball, play defense. That's all it is. So I'm taking Bama 13.5, minus 13.5, and under 56.5 total points in this one. In a game that Alabama has to win, and that LSU is ranked number 10, but they are overranked per pretty much everybody here. And then the big one this week is Tennessee and Georgia. Now Tennessee has looked like the best, one of the 3 best teams this year, 3 or 4. They play great offense. Hooker is off the chain, super efficient, doesn't turn the ball over. He can run. I don't know how, but every game there's just guys 50 yards down the field wide open. And Tennessee's really been – they've played in a lot of close games. You wouldn't think that they were in it was a pretty close game against Florida, and it was pretty – they did blow out Kentucky last week, so that's good. But I think that was because of the uniforms and the home night game. Alabama played them really good, and Tennessee ended up pulling out with a field goal at home at Tennessee, which is one of the craziest college football environments. This is at Georgia. Now, this is at Georgia. This will be the best defense that Tennessee plays. These are first-round corners out there. These are 5-star recruits at safety. We'll one thing about Georgia's defense this year compared to last year is they don't get after the quarterback. Only 10 sacks this year. Nolan Smith, who was their best pass rusher, who had 3 sacks this year, he's out for the rest of the season. 3 sacks isn't that much, but it is first on the team, so that's technically your best pass rusher, right? He's out. He's out the rest of the season. They've been struggling getting after the quarterback, but still playing solid defense. Still a top 3 points given up defense. Now, last year, Georgia won at Tennessee. You know, Georgia had an all-time team. It was 41-17, and that was at Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was still the quarterback. Stetson Bennett was still the quarterback. Georgia had a crazy good defense, though. But the big number here that I think matters is last year Georgia had 274 rushing yards. Tennessee had 55. Now, Georgia, I think that's the secret to beating Tennessee is just hold the ball, run, play defense, force some turnovers. Don't let them get out to that big start like they had against Alabama where they scored 21 points or whatever in the first quarter, even though Alabama still did come back. If Georgia can get up on you, if they can run the ball, if they can pound you, if they can play defense, get you off the field a few times, Tennessee is going to score without a doubt, a few points. But this is what Georgia does. They play defense. They run the ball. If I was Georgia, I wouldn't even dress receivers. I would just go 3 tight ends every play and just pound the rock. They have the 3 tight ends are all top 3 round draft picks, day 1, day 2 draft picks. These guys are, Darnell Washington, who's from Vegas. He's like 6'8", 280-pound tight end. Bowers is like one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in years. Eric Gilbert was on the 2019 LSU national championship team and one of their good, really solid players. We're looking at God damn it. Sorry. Okay. So that's what we're looking at there. The line is Tennessee plus 8.5. I like Tennessee actually to cover that because I do think it'll be a lower scoring game. So I'll take Tennessee 8.5. It is the over-under is 66.5. So that's over-under 66.5. I think I'm going to stay away from that. If it goes the way I think it's going to go, it's going to be Tennessee. Tennessee will keep it close. Georgia's going to win. All right. Now the other 2 games, Ohio State's playing Northwestern. Northwestern's looking like one of the worst offenses this year. Ohio State's favored by 38 points, which is a huge number. It's at Northwestern. Of course, Ohio State is capable of that. I could see them getting up by a bunch in the first half and then letting off the gas in the second. It's God, everybody's blowing up my phone right now, and it's so frustrating when I'm trying to record. Ohio State, 38 points. That's tough. I'm not going to take it. I think they get up, but they let off the gas in the second half because Northwestern's not going to score. Northwestern's not good. Now, Michigan-Rutgers. Michigan is at Rutgers this week after the demolishing of Michigan State at home. Rutgers looks really bad, and they literally play into the strengths of Michigan. I think Michigan wins this one I think it's like a 42-38 to 3-7-0 for Rutgers. The line's 26.5. I'm going to hammer Michigan on that one. Michigan runs the ball. They shut down your running game. They make you throw it on them like underneath, pick them apart. That's the only way to really move the ball on them. And then they just get after you with the pass rushers. Rutgers is just not. It's not going to do it. Lock of the week. Again, I went 0-1 last week in my lock of the week by a half point. I got 2 this week. I like Illinois minus 17 against Michigan State. Michigan State, 8 players 8 players suspended, including starting linebackers, DBs. Illinois is at home. You know, when somebody's like, I really need you to do something right now, and like, if we don't do it right now, we're never gonna have another chance to do it ever again, and like, it needs to happen right now, or else like everything's gonna fall apart, and then you go and you're in the middle of something that you're like doing, and like, you really need to keep doing it straight in one line, or else it's gonna be like a big deal and like a lot more work and all that, and then you get there to do it, and it's like something with like a super easy solution that you didn't even really need to be there to be, or need to be there for. That's kind of what just happened. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. So picking back up at locks of the week, I'm flustered. Okay, lock of the week. 0-1 last week by a half point in that Georgia-Florida game, when Georgia looked like they were going to beat them by like 100 points in the first quarter. And then I don't know what happened. And they still missed the cover by a half point. Illinois at home against Michigan State. Michigan State just has had an awful year. Like I said before, 2022 Michigan State is 2021 Michigan State without Kenneth Walker. They were so dependent on Kenneth Walker last year, and they don't have anybody close. They had 8 players suspended from the brawl in the tunnel at the Michigan game after the game, including their best defensive player and 3-time Big Ten Player of the Week, Windman there, the transfer from UNLV. It's going to be tough for Michigan. I don't see Michigan State being able to get up at all for this one. Illinois actually has, I believe, the number 1 ranked scoring defense right now out of nowhere. And I don't see why they don't shut out. They should shut out Michigan State and probably put up 30 or so points. The line is Illinois minus 17, so that's going to be the first lock of the week. Second lock of the week, North Carolina versus Virginia. It's at Virginia. North Carolina favored by 7. Drake May, North Carolina's quarterback, is looking like he's looking like a first overall pick next year. He is big and tall. He's accurate. He doesn't turn the ball over. 1 interception this year, I believe, maybe 2. He can run the ball. Now, North Carolina's defense isn't that strong, but Virginia's offense is nothing at all. So I don't see how North Carolina doesn't smoke Virginia in this one. I like North Carolina here minus 7. Those are my locks of the week. Illinois minus 17. North Carolina minus 7. Last week I had the chaos parlay, which was Penn State beating Ohio State, Kentucky beating Tennessee, and Michigan winning by 30. That didn't happen. In the blog, I say don't bet it. I said to not bet it. This is not something you should do. But it's hit it for me a few times, and these are the games that I like where the team that is the underdog per se is, I believe, has a good chance or a great chance to win the game. Florida, I really like this week at Texas A&M. Texas A&M has just been trash. They have not been able to get anything under control. Jimbo is like on the hot seat, kind of. He's possibly looking at his last year before they like fire him next year if he doesn't get it together. Florida's not that bad. They play Georgia pretty good. Richardson is at least a quarterback, which Texas A&M does not have. I like Florida to win that game. Baylor at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been improved since Dylan Gabriel's gotten back. They're still nothing special. They give up a lot of points. Baylor's better at defense. Baylor's not bad at all. Baylor's been playing pretty good. They're a winning team. I think Baylor wins that game. If you want to get crazy, I think going back to Notre Dame beating Clemson, I think is very possible this week in a game at Notre Dame. I like that one. So that's a 3-team parlay, all money line for plus 1,169 odds. That means you bet $10, you make 116. Now, if you want to get real crazy and get real chaosy, Tennessee is plus 225. The number one team in the country is such a big dog. They're plus 225. And Texas Tech is plus 260 against TCU. If you throw those two on there, that's a 5-team parlay of Florida, Baylor, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas Tech money line for plus 14,747 odds. So that's $10 to win $1,474. I mean, $10, if you have $10 to spare, if you want to get a little crazy there, throw those teams on there. For the rest of my card, this episode might not even be out by then. It all depends on how long this shit takes to fucking upload. But tonight, Oregon State, Washington. I like Oregon State plus 4.5. Oregon State kept close with USC. Washington is not USC. It is at Washington, but I like Oregon State plus 4.5 and under 59.5 points. I think Oregon State plays defense. Washington hasn't been impressive since that beginning stretch of the year with Michael Penix. At quarterback, Oregon State. For Saturday's games, I like Florida plus 3.5 against Texas A&M. I think to me, that's an easy one. I actually think they win that game. Kentucky minus 1 against Mizzou. Kentucky last week, disappointing letdown week against Tennessee. I think they get it back. I don't think Mizzou's that good. Mizzou does play pretty good defense. I think Will Levis gets them back over that one. Marshall minus 3 against Old Dominion. Marshall looks pretty good. I think they win that conference this year. Kansas minus 1 versus Oklahoma State. Now, Spencer Sanders might not play. The quarterback for Ohio State might not play. Kansas might be getting back Jalen Daniels, the quarterback that was looking kind of like an MVP candidate at the beginning, or not MVP, Heisman candidate at the beginning of the season. I think I like that one. It's Kansas at home. Oklahoma State lost by 48 points. Didn't put up a single point. You might have Gunnar Gundy, all-time name, by the way. Gunnar Gundy might be starting at quarterback. And Jalen Daniels might be back for Kansas. Wake minus 4 at NC State. I know Wake got just blown out by Louisville last week. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt again with this to win by, I think they win by a touchdown, maybe 10. NC State's quarterback, Leary, is out for the year. Wake still has Sam Hartman at quarterback. That offense is crazy to me still. They can put up points. NC State's looked kind of lackluster since Leary went down. I also like the under in that one at 54. I think NC State kind of struggles to score, and Wake does enough to win by a 10 or so. I think it's going to be around a 27-10 kind of game. Houston plus 3.5 against SMU at SMU. SMU's quarterback Mordecai might be out. That's a big factor here, but Houston, they play better defense than SMU. Clayton Tune at quarterback for them. He's a fifth-year starter, or at least a fifth-year senior. He started a lot of games. He looks really good. I like the over in that one, 65.5. It's going to be a barn burner. I like Houston plus 3.5 and SMU in the over to go over 65.5. Tennessee plus 8.5. Already touched on that. Tennessee keeps it close against Georgia, but I still think they lose. Bama minus 13.5 went over that one against LSU. I like the under 56.5 there. Texas minus 2.5 against Kansas State. Kansas State blew out Oklahoma State last week, but I think Texas's run defense gets them kind of under control. Kansas State did throw the ball better last week, but I still think Texas, Quinn Ewers, they're kind of that team that can beat anybody but lose to anybody. And I'm going to take Texas minus 2.5 and the over 54.5 Big 12 game points. Notre Dame, we went over. Notre Dame Clemson plus 4. I like Notre Dame and under 44 points. Michigan minus 26.5. I would even go Michigan to minus 30.5. I like 31 points. I could see that. against Rutgers. I think the reason the number isn't bigger is because Michigan sometimes settles for field goals. I think that was just kind of Harbaugh playing it conservative. And I think this week we kind of blow it open on Rutgers. Traditionally, we do. UCLA at Arizona State. I like UCLA minus 11. And then some overs here. I like Texas Tech TCU going over 69, as I mentioned earlier. Baylor, Oklahoma going over 61.5. These Big 12 games, man, take the over every time. Oregon and Colorado. I like the under 63. Oregon's going to score. Oregon's got a good quarterback. They got a good offense. They're moving the ball well. Colorado is not good at all. It is at Colorado. I think this is another one where Oregon gets up, 35, 42 points and then kind of lays off the gas in the second half. And Colorado kind of struggles to score. I think maybe 10 most is what we're looking at there. But not enough to get to over 63 points. Arizona and Utah over 68.5. This one's purely just based off of last week taking under 76.5 against USC. This isn't like the classic Utah game where they run the ball and play defense. They kind of score and don't really stop the other team. Arizona, I guess, puts up points. So why not? Over 68.5, Arizona at home against Utah. Syracuse and Pitt over 48. Syracuse gave up 40 points to Notre Dame last week. And Pitt is, Keaton Slovis at quarterback. They can put up points. They actually played Tennessee really close at the beginning of the year, which everybody forgets. That was a one-score game. West Virginia and Iowa State. This is at Iowa State. I like the under 50 points. Iowa State has had a lot of 10-9, 12 to, those low-scoring 12 win with 12-point games. They had one against Kansas, Texas. I believe Iowa was 9-6, I believe. They have those games, especially at home. They play really good defense and they can't score. West Virginia has a pretty solid offense with JT Daniels at quarterback. Lost to TCU last week at home. I like the under 50 on this one. And then last one is Liberty and Arkansas. Hugh Freeze at Liberty just got a huge contract extension. KJ Jefferson in that offense and Rocket Sanders, the running back. Arkansas is going to score. Hugh Freeze, an offensive genius. Liberty is going to score over 61 points. So that's the card. That's the preview. That's where we're at. Minor inconvenience there at the break of the in between the lock of the week. If it kind of sounds weird when you're listening to it, and it kind of sounds like I was talking about something and then stopped. It's because I did. So yeah, it's going to be a crazy week. I'll have a blog with all these picks up on the website here, and yeah. Good luck out there with the bets, and enjoy your Saturday.